All right, jumping right in, we're doing a deep dive, custom deep dive into Tejas Networks Q3 FY25 performance. And we've got a pretty fascinating set of sources. We've got the official results, announcement to the stock exchange, the earnings call transcript, the complete one, and a set of really sharp analyst questions. Here's the twist. The CEO's been a little under the weather, so we've got the COO, the CFO, and the CTO all stepping up to share insights. So it's a bit more dynamic than just your typical, like, dry financial report. This is Tejas Networks, a major player in India's just huge 4G, 5G build-out, and they're setting their sights on global expansion.
Yeah.
So it's a real David versus Goliath story, taking on the giants, like your Nokias of the world.
What's interesting here is that they're not just trying to compete on price. They've got some genuinely innovative engineering that kind of sets them apart.
Hey, I'm intrigued. So where do we even begin with a company like this?
Well, you can't talk about Tejas without talking about this massive BSNL project they just pulled off. I mean, they supplied equipment for over 86,000 4G, 5G sites, most of which are already live, serving customers. Imagine the logistical challenge of that. The sheer scale is just mind-boggling.
86,000 sites. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
So how did they even manage something of this size?
This is where their unique approach comes in. They integrate the backhaul directly into the radio units themselves. So instead of having separate boxes and kilometers of cable for backhaul, they've streamlined it all into a single unit. This not only cuts down costs for operators, but also simplifies installation and maintenance.
So it's incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
But were there any trade-offs they had to make to achieve that level of integration? Because I imagine there are engineering challenges to packing all that functionality into one unit.
There are always trade-offs in engineering, but from what they've shared, the benefits really seem to outweigh the challenges. And it's clearly resonating with customers. The analysts on the earnings call were really pressing them on real-world performance compared to the initial proof of concept. There were concerns about whether Tejas could truly scale their solution beyond a limited trial.
It's a good question, valid question. Did they address those concerns? What did their testing actually show?
Oh, they tackled it head on. They explained that the testing wasn't just done in a lab. They actually ran a year-long field trial across multiple sites in Chandigarh, and the results were positive. Their solution met the performance targets, proving that they could handle the scale and complexity of a massive rollout like BSNL. This successful, large-scale implementation sends a strong signal to potential customers about their capabilities.
So it's like a giant billboard saying, hey, we can deliver. BSNL is just one piece of the puzzle, right? They've got global ambitions. They're not content with just conquering the Indian market. Now that we've kind of seen what they can do on a domestic scale, let's zoom out and look at their global game plan. They're aggressively pursuing deals in India and internationally, but their order book actually shrank this year compared to last year. What's going on there?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. It's important to remember that the telecom industry is known for long sales cycles, especially when you're talking about major infrastructure projects. These deals can take months, even years to finalize. So a dip in the order book doesn't necessarily mean they're losing momentum. What we need to do is look for clues in their pipeline and their strategy to see what they're targeting next.
Okay, let's put on our detective hats. What insights can we glean from the earnings call, from those analyst questions, about where they're focusing their efforts?
Well, in India, they're looking to expand their work with BSNL even further. They're involved in bids for standalone 5G build-outs, a massive anti-collision system for Indian railways, and private 5G networks for large enterprises.
Wow, Indian Railways, that's a huge undertaking. So they're casting a wide net within India itself.
They are, and they're targeting, it seems, growth areas within different sectors. But it doesn't stop there. Internationally, they're aiming to develop custom 5G radios for Tier 1 operators, secure more BharatNet projects, and even provide networking solutions for utility companies as they digitize their power grids. They even hinted at a U.S. network modernization project they were being very tight-lipped about.
A mystery project in the U.S. Okay, now that's really intriguing. They're certainly ambitious, but are they spreading themselves too thin? Or is this a sign of confidence in a well-calculated strategy?
That's a question a lot of analysts were asking on the call, and it's a valid one. Global expansion is a complex game. There are regulatory hurdles, tariffs, and long lead times to consider.
Yeah, I can only imagine the headaches of trying to navigate international shipping and regulations for something as complex as telecom equipment. It must be a logistical nightmare. So what specific challenges do they actually mention they're facing?
Well, one thing they were upfront about is tariffs. While there hasn't been anything concrete yet, it's a looming threat to their cost advantage. especially as they try to compete in new markets.
That makes sense. Because if tariffs make their products more expensive, it erodes their competitive edge.
Right.
What about regulatory hurdles? Are they encountering any roadblocks in getting their technology approved for use in different countries?
They actually said they aren't facing any major regulatory hurdles. They've got their certifications in order, which means they've cleared the necessary regulatory requirements for the markets they're targeting.
So regulations aren't a major concern. That's good news for Tejas. But what about lead times? We're talking about huge infrastructure projects here. These things don't happen overnight, right?
You're absolutely right. Lead times in the telecom industry can be notoriously long. We're talking months, sometimes years, of testing and negotiations before a deal is finalized.
Especially when you're trying to break into a new market like the US. Analysts were really interested in their U.S. strategy, particularly with programs like BEAD, which is focused on expanding broadband access in rural areas, and Rip and Replace, the initiative to swap out equipment from Chinese companies.
It's interesting because they're actually targeting both of those programs. However, their real ace in the hole seems to be network modernization. A lot of older networks in the US, especially in rural areas, are running on outdated technology.
So how does Tejas fit into that? What are they offering that's different?
Their technology allows these older networks to be upgraded to modern standards without having to rip out all the existing infrastructure and start from scratch. They can achieve this through a technique called circuit emulation, which essentially allows newer technology to work seamlessly with older systems.
So instead of being the cheap option, they're positioning themselves as the smart, efficient option for network upgrades. That's a compelling message.
Exactly. And it aligns perfectly with the needs of many U.S. operators who are looking for cost-effective ways to modernize their networks without disrupting service. This approach positions Tejas as a valuable partner rather than just another vendor.
It's a great strategy. But all this growth and ambition comes with a price tag, right?
Yeah.
They're investing a substantial amount in R&D, around INR 600 crore. Can they sustain that level of spending if their revenue takes a dip, due to these long lead times we've been talking about?
They seem confident that they can. They emphasize on the call that R&D is crucial for staying competitive in this rapidly evolving industry, and they're investing in some really cutting-edge areas. For example, they're developing 1.2 terabit per second optical technology. That's an incredible speed capable of handling the massive data demands of future networks.
So they're not just keeping up with the latest technology, they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Precisely. They're also investing in advanced 5G features and leveraging their acquisition of Sankhya Labs to integrate satellite communications into their offering.
Satellite communications, that's a whole other level. What's the thinking behind that?
Integrating satellite technology opens up some exciting possibilities. Imagine providing connectivity to remote areas or disaster-stricken zones where terrestrial networks are unavailable. They are essentially creating a more resilient and flexible network solution.
It's impressive, but it also seems like a bold move considering they're still trying to establish themselves in the global market.
It definitely shows their commitment to innovation and their willingness to take risks. But R&D isn't the only area where they're making strategic investments. Partnerships are also key to their growth strategy. They've significantly expanded their sales teams in North America and Latin America, and they've been establishing partner networks in Europe and Asia.
Why are these partnerships so crucial for a company like Tejas?
These partnerships are absolutely vital because they provide Tejas with something they lack: local expertise. These partners bring language skills, cultural understanding, and critically established relationships with potential customers in their respective regions.
So they're essentially acting as Tejas's ambassadors, helping them navigate new markets and build trust with local customers. It's a smart way to leverage existing networks and knowledge, but it's still a big bet, isn't it? Can they manage all these partnerships effectively and ensure a consistent brand experience across different regions?
That's the big question. And it's one we'll explore further as we dive deeper into their financials and strategic plans. But one thing is clear: they're not shying away from ambitious goals.
It really does feel like we're watching a company at a crossroads. They've got this incredible momentum in India. They're making some smart moves in terms of technology and partnerships. But they're also up against some of the biggest names in the industry. So let's talk about that competition for a moment. How is Tejas positioning themselves to take on these giants?
Well, they got a few key advantages. First, as we've discussed, their technology is genuinely innovative. That integration of backhaul directly into the radio units, their focus on circuit emulation for network modernization, These things give them a significant edge, particularly when you factor in their cost competitiveness.
Yeah, their focus on efficiency and streamlined solutions, it seems like, is a real differentiator, especially in markets where cost sensitivity is a major factor. But I'm curious, is technology enough to win in this space?
It's a crucial piece of the puzzle, but you also need a deep understanding of each market, strong relationships, and the ability to tailor your solutions to specific customer needs. That's where their investment in building out local sales teams and cultivating those partner networks comes into play. They're clearly not just trying to sell a product, they're trying to build long-term partnerships and become trusted advisors.
Right. It's like the difference between simply selling someone a car and understanding their needs well enough to recommend the perfect car for their lifestyle and budget. You need that personal touch and deep understanding to build trust and loyalty.
Exactly. And that's especially important in a complex industry like telecom, where networks are constantly evolving and operators are facing a myriad of challenges.
So we've got innovative technology, a strong focus on partnerships, and a commitment to understanding local markets. It sounds like a solid foundation, but let's be realistic, there are always risks involved, especially when you're a relatively smaller player going up against these established giants. What are some of the biggest hurdles that Tejas might face in this global expansion?
Besides the tariffs and lead times we've already discussed,
Yep.
one of the biggest challenges is execution. They've proven they can deliver on a massive project like BSNL. But can they replicate that success consistently across multiple projects in different markets with different partners?
Yeah, it's one thing to hit a home run once, it's another to be a consistent all-star player. So scalability and maintaining that level of quality and efficiency across different contexts is going to be crucial for them.
Absolutely. And we can't ignore the global economic climate. While Payaz mentions seeing continued investment in the telecom sector, any economic downturn could impact their growth plans. It's a delicate balance between seizing opportunities and navigating uncertainty.
They're walking a tightrope for sure.
Right.
But it's not all doom and gloom. They also mentioned a potential silver lining, that massive $500 billion investment wave in AI infrastructure. Could you unpack that a bit? What are the implications of that for Tejas?
That's a game changer. Artificial intelligence requires just colossal amounts of data to function, and all that data needs to be moved, processed, and stored. This translates to a surge in demand for faster, more robust networks, higher bandwidth, and lower latency.
So it sounds like this AI wave is going to put immense pressure on existing telecom infrastructure.
Exactly. And this is where Teisha's investments in high-capacity optical technology, their advanced 5G features, and their focus on network modernization become even more relevant. They're positioning themselves to be at the forefront of this AI revolution, providing the essential infrastructure that will power this next generation of technology.
It's almost like they're building the roads and highways of the digital world, preparing for a massive influx of traffic from all these, AI-powered vehicles of the future.
That's a great analogy. And it's not just about bigger pipes and faster connections. AI also brings unique challenges in terms of security, latency, and reliability.
So it's not just about the volume of data, but the quality and the speed at which it needs to be transmitted and processed.
Precisely. And this is where Tejas' unique approach could give them a significant advantage. Their focus on integrated solutions, their ability to tailor networks to specific needs, and their commitment to innovation. This kind of flexibility and agility will be crucial in this AI-driven world.
So in a sense, they're not just building networks, they're building the foundation for a future where AI is seamlessly integrated into every aspect of our lives.
That's a powerful way to put it. And it's a reminder that we're on the cusp of a technological transformation unlike anything we've seen before. This convergence of telecom, AI, and cloud computing is going to create tremendous opportunities, but also unprecedented challenges.
It's exciting, but also a bit daunting. It feels like we're standing at the edge of a new frontier, and we kind of have no idea what awaits us. So with all this in mind, what's the verdict on Tejas Networks? Are they a good bet for the future?
Well, that's the million riddle question, and I don't have a crystal ball. But here's what we can say. They have a proven track record of innovation. They're strategically targeting high-growth markets, and they're making aggressive investments to capitalize on these emerging trends like AI. Whether they can overcome the challenges and truly become a global player remains to be seen.
So it's a bit of a nail-biter. But that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating, right? We're witnessing a company at a pivotal moment with the potential to disrupt an entire industry.
Exactly. Tejas is at a crossroads. They have a real chance to reshape the telecom landscape, but they're facing some serious headwinds. It'll be incredibly interesting to watch how their journey unfolds.
And speaking of journeys, We've focused a lot on Teja's business strategy and the external factors influencing their growth. But I'm curious about the people behind the company. What kind of insights did we get from the earnings call about their company culture and leadership?
That's a great point. The fact that the CEO was out sick and they addressed it openly on the call, it speaks volumes about their transparency. And the way the COO, CFO, and CKO seamlessly stepped in to answer questions, it demonstrates a strong sense of teamwork and shared responsibility.
I noticed that too. They weren't just reading from a script. They were genuinely engaged, passionate about what they're building.
Yes. And they were clearly proud of their team, especially the engineers who pulled off that massive BSNL rollout. It wasn't just about hitting financial targets. They emphasized the dedication, the ingenuity, and the problem-solving skills that went into making that project a success.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear that kind of pride and recognition, especially in a company that's publicly traded and often judged solely on its financial performance.
And they seem to have maintained that startup spirit even as they've grown. They're not afraid to take risks, to think big, to challenge the status quo.
That brings us to a particularly interesting development, the hiring of Sanjay Malik, the former India country head for Nokia. That's a major coup for Tejas.
It's a bold move, and it sends a clear signal about their ambitions. Malik brings a wealth of experience, relationships, and market knowledge, particularly in the international markets that Tejas is targeting.
So it's not just about acquiring talent, it's about acquiring strategic expertise, a deep understanding of the competitive landscape. He's almost like a seasoned navigator, guiding their ship through uncharted waters.
That's a great way to think about it. And they even created a new position for him, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Business Development. That shows they're willing to adapt their structure to attract top talent and position themselves for future growth.
It's a smart move. You can't build a world-class company with a second-rate team.
And it's not just about the executives at the top. They emphasize the importance of attracting and retaining top engineers, creative thinkers, and problem solvers. They understand that their success hinges on having a team of passionate, skilled individuals who are committed to pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It sounds like they're building more than just a company. They're cultivating a culture of innovation, collaboration, and shared purpose.
That's the sense I get, and that's a powerful asset in today's rapidly changing world. Technology is constantly evolving, but it's the people who will ultimately determine a company's success or failure.
Right, it all boils down to human ingenuity, that spark of creativity, that drive to make a difference. And from what we've gathered today, Tejas Networks seems to have that in spades. But let's zoom out for a moment and talk about the bigger picture, the future of telecom and where Tejas fits into it all. They dropped a few hints about this during the earnings call, right?
They did, and it's worth paying close attention to. They talked about that $500 billion AI infrastructure investment wave we discussed earlier, and how it's going to fundamentally reshape the telecom landscape. It's not just a trend, it's a tectonic shift. It will impact every aspect of how we communicate and connect with the world.
It's mind-boggling to think about that scale of investment. How does Tejas see themselves playing a role in this AI-powered future?
Well, remember how we talked about the increasing demand for faster speeds, higher bandwidth, and lower latency? Tejas is positioning themselves to be the backbone of this AI-driven world, providing the essential infrastructure that will enable these advancements. Their investments in cutting-edge optical technology, advanced 5G features, and their focus on network modernization are all geared towards meeting these future demands.
So they're not just reacting to current trends, they're anticipating future needs and building solutions that will be essential as AI becomes more integrated into our lives.
Exactly. And it's not just about providing the raw capacity. It's about ensuring security, reliability, and the ability to adapt to the evolving needs of AI applications. This is where their emphasis on tailored solutions and their agile approach to network design will be crucial.
It sounds like they're striving to be more than just a provider of infrastructure. They want to be a strategic partner for businesses and organizations navigating this whole AI revolution.
That's a great way to put it. They're aiming to be an enabler, a facilitator, a trusted advisor in a world where connectivity is no longer just a convenience, but a fundamental requirement for innovation and progress.
It's inspiring, but also a bit intimidating. We're talking about a future where technology is changing at an unprecedented pace. And it's hard to even grasp the full implications of that.
It's true. We're all trying to make sense of this rapidly evolving landscape. But that's what makes Tejas Networks so interesting to follow. They're not just riding the wave, they're trying to shape it. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, taking calculated risks, building towards a future that's still being defined.
And they're doing it with a clear sense of purpose and a commitment to excellence. It's exciting to see a company with such ambition and vision, and it'll be fascinating to watch how their story unfolds in the years to come. It's clear that Tejas Networks is a company on a mission, and they're playing a long game. But I'm curious, what does all this mean for you, the listener? Why should you care about this story of an Indian telecom company making waves on the global stage?
Well, this deep dive has given you a glimpse into the inner workings of a company at the forefront of a technological revolution. You've learned about their innovative technology, their strategic partnerships, and their ambitious plans for the future. But more importantly, it's exposed you to the bigger trends shaping the telecom industry and the potential impact of these trends on your own life.
Right. We often hear about AI and 5G in the abstract, but this deep dive has kind of grounded those concepts in the real world, showing how a company like Tejas is translating those advancements into tangible solutions.
Exactly. And it prompts you to think about how these technologies will impact your own life. How will faster networks, higher bandwidth, and the rise of AI change the way you work, communicate, interact with the world around you?
Those are great questions to consider. It's not just about having a faster internet connection. It's about the potential for new innovations, new industries, new ways of solving problems that we can't even imagine yet.
Precisely. And here's a final thought to ponder. Tejas mentioned that many of the technologies they're developing for 5G and AI will be foundational for 6G. We haven't even fully realized the potential of 5G, and they're already 2 steps ahead, laying the groundwork for the next generation of connectivity.
It's amazing to think about what the future holds. It's like we're standing on the edge of this vast, uncharted territory filled with, challenges and opportunities.
And that's the beauty of it. We're all explorers in this digital age, and companies like Tejas Networks are our guides, pushing the boundaries of what's possible and illuminating the path forward.
So as we wrap up this deep dives into Tejas Networks, I encourage you to stay curious, keep exploring, and don't be afraid to ask questions. The future of technology is being written right now, and it's up to all of us to engage with it thoughtfully and responsibly.
Well said. And remember, the most important takeaway from this deep dive is not just the knowledge you've gained about Tejas Networks, but the spark of curiosity it's ignited. Keep that spark alive, keep learning, and keep exploring the world around you.